Was film school worth it? I grapple with this question all the time. Honestly, I've been thinking about making a whole video on it, and I probably will. So I'll probably do it like just for fun. But when I really look back at my journey, and I just feel like it just feels very ironic. I basically spent 4 years in college learning the proper ways to make videos, and now we literally record using our iPhones and our laptops. Now, it may just be the direction that I took, but the good thing that came out of those years was I actually found a love for telling stories from people from marginalized communities. So people who either had a hard time telling their own story or whose voices just never got the chance to be heard. And I ended up creating multiple short documentaries during those years, and that's really where like my freelance journey actually began. But it created this sort of like juxtaposition, like with the two different worlds, sort of like the classroom versus the reality that I was actually sitting in. So while I was in the classroom learning about movie productions, my real life experiences was something completely different. And so, because of a job that I had in college, I talk about this in another video, I had all of these connections in the nonprofit world. So, while I was in school, working full time, while I was in school full time and almost working full time hours, and then also doing freelance stuff on the side, um, it's like in class, we were debating lighting, writing 5-page essays dissecting those black and white films that used to come out, which I hated, by the way. The way film and video was made, it was literally changing like right before our eyes. So actually leaning harder into that freelance side, this was right when the pandemic hit. So suddenly no one could be in a room together. And a lot of the organizations, they were like scrambling to move online. And I started to be paid really well, hundreds, eventually thousands of dollars just to edit Zoom videos. And I'll probably have to put some B-roll in here. But the nonprofits that I was working with, they had moved everything to the internet and they were terrified of losing people's attention. So one thing I specifically specialized in during that time was training videos for children. So think about that for a second. I had to find a way to take a very dry Zoom recording and make it interesting enough for a child to actually sit through and learn from it. And I feel like I had all this fancy training, but I was literally using it to solve the very interesting problem of how do I keep a kid focused on the screen. And I used to think, am I wasting my degree? But then I realized the rules simply had changed and I was applying the skills differently. So what I learned was that business owners and organizations, they didn't need a 6-person film crew to make everything look pretty. They just needed their ideas to like actually land. And they needed substance and storytelling, not just for it to look good. And I say the same thing here on YouTube. Also, more about during that time before 2020, like a lot of like really big production companies made a lot because essentially they were gatekeepers and they owned really like a lot of these expensive toys. So like $50,000 cameras, the red camera, I remember everybody was talking about that camera. There was another one too, I can't remember. And basically, if you wanted to create video content, especially business owners, if they wanted to create content, if they wanted to look professional, you had to pay them. But then we all got sent home. And I remember at one point I knew an agency that specifically moved to just editing Zoom videos. And the guy even published a book. But suddenly the news anchors that you saw on TV every morning, they were broadcasting from like their basements with like maybe a basic ring light. One of my favorite videos from that time, and I bet you've seen it, is the BBC interview where it's a guy, he's talking about something super serious, and then his three toddlers just kind of burst in the room, and they're just like in the background while he's like trying to be professional, and then a nanny has to literally slide in, drag them out of the room. Every time that video pops up on my page, I laugh, and it got millions of views. And I feel like that's when people realize that they could literally share $1 million ideas through their iPhone, and no one cared if it didn't look like a movie. In fact, we people preferred for the messy reality, or maybe even the messy video, over the polished fake stuff and looking like a news anchor. That's the best way I can have. And that's also when TikToks that are doing really well. If you're on TikTok, you know that people literally just want to be that they be on there yapping and talking. So again, when I tell people, hey, your video doesn't need to be perfect, you just need to record and post it, I swear, I, I see something in their system kind of glitch. And they look at me like, no way, I can just show up. It has to be perfect. And I'm like, yeah, yes way, you can. And they don't realize that showing up messy, showing up as your actual unscripted self is exactly what attracts those opportunities that you're looking for. So don't get me wrong, I can appreciate a beautifully high produced video just as much as anyone else. But yeah, you don't need that anymore. So back to the question: was film school worth it? For I guess the technical side of it, I realized that my degree wasn't a waste. It actually gave me sort of like a translator skill. So basically, I know the rules of video, so I know exactly which ones to break and how to make like a simple iPhone or laptop recording feel like a masterclass. um, and yeah, you don't need a $5,000 camera to be respected in what you're talking about. You just need a clear message and literally the guts to show up. And I realize that's usually the hardest part is showing up, even if it's just from like a spare bedroom. So if you're still holding back because you don't think you have the perfect setup, this is definitely your time. Your sign to stop waiting, because I feel like the pandemic, it just made it okay to be human again, and you know um, yeah, you just show up and tell your story so you can attract those things that you want. And yeah, I mean, if you're ready to start using YouTube to actually get clients, leads, opportunities, there are two ways that we can work together. One, you can join my free workshop and learn the exact type of content that brings in clients from YouTube, not just the views. And I talk about what to post, how to structure your videos, and how to turn your content into lead generators. And two, you can get my Edit Like a Savvy Pro course. And this course is basically everything that I've learned from film school to that time period when I was editing from work corporations and high level brands. Now, don't think this is some complicated course. My editing style is very simple, very clean, and I only put in there what's needed. So yeah, it's basically designed to make your content look really good without overcomplicating the process in a little bit of time. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. Um, if you remember when this shift happened, definitely comment below and let me know. Because I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, I'm going to share this. But yeah, I will see you in the next video.